Hey, good morning, guys. This is part 2 of the debut episode of Shooting from the Hip, where I was basically talking about, the glory days of professional wrestling and growing up watching World Class with the Von Erichs and, that whole back during the territory days was awesome. With the old Dallas Sportatorium and everything, and I still got just about every DVD. Not only do I have the WWE version of the History of World Class on DVD, but obviously now that I'm a proud card-carrying member of the WWE Network, which is, once it catches on, the WWE it's going to be, once again, the WWE is going to be ahead of its time. But right now they're kind of suffering as far as the WWE Network goes, because when they initially did the whole WWE Network thing, it was, I think it was sometime back in December. They launched it in February, and I think they projected that they were going to get something like 1 million subscribers or something like this, and whatever. I don't know how these things go with, what do they call them, shareholders meetings and things like that, and business projections and whatever that goes. But anyways, they wound up only getting 600,000 subscribers to the network, and so obviously that didn't go too well for the WWE. And then later on here, just recently, I guess the TV rights thing didn't quite go as well as what the WWE was thinking it was going to go, and so that didn't quite go. But what I'm saying is I still say that the WWE Network, for $9.99 a month or something, it is worth the price of admission, especially since I heard just recently that they're going to be adding some of the tape libraries from Mid-South Wrestling. It's going to be worth it in the next couple of years, especially once they hit that 1.4 million subscriber mark. The WWE is going to start making their money back on this thing, and if you look back at the history of this thing, every time that old Vince McMahon or the WWE that they've called them crazy on these things like this, hey, they've always wound up being on some of the cutting edge of some of this stuff. The World Bodybuilding Federation, that one tanked back in '92. Okay, yeah, that failed. And I think we all can think back to the XFL. Okay, I still say though the XFL was, even though it was doomed, it was never gonna be successful, obviously, because you're not going to compete with the National Football League on something like that. But it was something that was kind of neat, and there's a few things that the XFL offered that wasn't quite so bad. There was some actually pretty good concepts and some good ideas that the WWE was going to bring to the table that the NFL weren't doing at the time. And usually, I think one of the most innovative organizations right now is obviously the NFL. And that was one of the times where some of these things that the XFL, the WWE was coming to the forefront with at the time. Not everything, obviously, but some of the initial things. That was a very, very good concept. But of course that one didn't go. And then of course in the 70s, I think McMahon tried to promote a few things with Antonio Inoki from Japan, and that, I don't know if that did too well. Hey, you gotta, Edison, it took him a long time to perfect that light bulb. You know what I mean? And so, and Vince McMahon is one of those guys that he's just not one of those guys that sit around and wait for something to happen. He's going to take a whole crap load of chances, and you got to give it to him. He's been a lot more successful than he has failed, and that's just part of what being a business person is. You're gonna have some things that just completely are gonna tank. and then you're going to throw some touchdown passes, and that's just the nature of the beast, and that's what part of being a business guy is, you know. But I'll be that aside, you know. You had your whole your Mid-South wrestling and everything, and your old world class. I've got the I've got the non WWE sponsored DVD collection on world class championship wrestling as well, and I really love that one because it actually has Kevin Von Erich as he tours the old Dallas Sportatorium, and you know, and he reflects as he goes from room to room and talks about old memories and stuff of the place, and obviously the priceless matches that's also included in the DVD. You know, the Missing Link and the Dingo Warrior that later, of course, we know went on to become the Ultimate Warrior, and and he did that right before they, of course, had it demolished. Which, if you're any kind of got any kind of a love for professional wrestling, the day the Dallas Sportatorium was demolished was a day that we all cried, you know, because wrestling was all about venues, and now, of course, it's all about, you know, television and pay-per-view, and now, of course, it's superseded pay-per-view with the WWE Network. I mean, they don't even need pay-per-view. And once again, that's another instance where Vince McMahon said, okay, pay-per-view companies, we don't need you, we'll just put on our own. You know, that's kind of the way it goes. But I think it's a priceless treasure to have. And but I think everybody should go out and try to get both copies and pick it up. It's amazing. Some of the greatest things went through World Class. That, you know, there was the Great Kabuki. You know, just a whole litany of stars through the old World Class, and because that was the only wrestling that I could get when I was a kid. And then, like I said, Mid-South Wrestling. You had your Junkyard Dog. He was one of my favorites, man. Old Sylvester Ritter. It was so tragic when he had that accident, the traffic accident, and he's no longer with us. But you know, he was great. Every time I hear Queen's Another One Bites the Dust, I think it's Junkyard Dog and his, you know, and him beating Harley Race, you know, and then of course, you know, Jake Snake Roberts did his time there. Of course, all of them back in the days, you'd stay for a little while in one territory, and then, you know, you get kind of stale, and, you know, you got to take your act on the road. But we go to the next place. Then of course they had Hacksaw Jim Duggan, which of course most people know him as the guy that threw, you know, as the flag waving 2x4 waving solid American hero. But, you know, before that, obviously he was one of Mid-South staples. Excellent guy, great wrestler. Another one not talked about too often, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Now, he got his start right there, Mid-South Wrestling, traveling that big trip all the way through Louisiana and Tennessee and Texas and on up into the Amarillo which was kind of more where the funks would come from, which that brings me to another one of my all-time favorites, and that is Terrible Terry Funk. I'm going to tell you. I mean, you talk about a guy back when kayfabe was kayfabe. You know, and Terry Funk was one of the guys that he was one of those guys that he was one of those crazy dudes that you just don't know if you can bet against the guy when the chips are down and there's three guys that go into a room. Terry Funk, with the way he delivered his promos, he just couldn't be certain that wasn't the guy that wasn't gonna come out of that sucker winning. It might not be clean, it might not look all pretty, but he's gonna come out winning that sucker. I love Terrible Terry Funk. He's one of my greats. Then let's see, who else was one of those? Oh God, it's hard to think of all of them. But Mid-South Wrestling is going to be great, and those are two of the ones that I grew up watching. And then, of course, later on, as I got older, you know, the WWE actually, you know, they had national television, so I got to see the WWE and all the other greats that was on there. And then, of course, every once in a while, the NWA would come through. And you had the Nature Boy Ric Flair, which 16-time World Heavyweight Champion. And that's only because NWA doesn't recognize those title changes between him and the Giant Baba over in Japan. So that took away a couple from him officially. But anyway, so we're going to go back down to the 16-time. But anyways, that was amazing. But I will tell you, in the modern day, a lot of people talking about John Cena. And here's what my thoughts are on John Cena. It's just, I remember when Cena first debuted, he did the whole Thuganomics thing, which I thought was great. His ring music with the Thuganomics era was awesome, and he was hilarious. And obviously nowadays the fans always tend to they hate him so bad, and I don't know what Cena's ever done basically. But you ever know the thing with John Cena nowadays is there's an old saying that goes, if one lives long enough as a hero, they will somehow see themselves be made to be a villain, I guess, for lack of a better term. Does anybody, like I said, that's the, once you've overstayed your time so long, then all of a sudden you become a villain. And I think that's the deal is, John Cena, his first couple years, especially his first title match against JBL for the world title, it is amazing. And it was one of the best matches I had seen. John Cena, like I said, he's a great guy, and he's just been one of those things, the workhorses of the company nowadays that people just keep, he keeps carrying the belt and people hate him, they boo him. Cena sucks, Cena doesn't. I don't know. The one thing I noticed that was lacking on either YouTube and other places is there's lots of people that get on and then they talk about wrestling. They don't really talk about their love of it. They just talk about what they hate about it, and I'm not another one of those people. So this is not your average wrestling fan show. This is obviously, I got a love for professional wrestling, and I'm gonna tell you my opinion on it. But I'm going to keep things positive and put a positive spin on things, and this is not going to be your traditional, I guess you'd call them a wrestling mark where, all they do is sit here and they gripe and they complain about what they don't want to see, and here's Cena again and all this stuff, Hey, man, I got to tell you, it's kind of tiring that they put the title back on Cena all the time. Yeah, it is a kind of tiring, but Daniel Bryan, obviously now we know more about Daniel Bryan and his, a lot more than what we initially thought. So, the best person to put the title on and
that Cena with the Make-A-Wish and everything else. No, I got nothing but respect for Cena, and I wish his wife. But like what this is leading to, Cena's the perfect guy to put the strap on, because we know that, the old school wrestling guy in me knows that sooner or later, we got somebody planned to win the strap off of Cena, and Cena's bulletproof, basically, whereas we know that Cena's legacy is already secure, so we're not going to tarnish his image. And if we put the strap on somebody else, and then they lose to Brock Lesnar at, say, someplace like SummerSlam, well, then they're going to kind of weep. See, we're not going to hurt by putting him and having him drop it to Brock Lesnar, and then having Lesnar lose it to some dude later on down the line as the story progresses. You got to look kind of old school in these things, and that's kind of one thing that I've noticed that Triple H is doing, is we're doing some long-term planning, and that's something that the WWE has been sorely missing in the last decade, is long-term, old school
wrestling promotion. You know, the match is going to be 6 months from now. Okay, we're going to build this match for 6 months, and then we're going to have the payoff. And that's the way it used to be done in the old days. And so, I mean, we can see that there's a payoff, and we can see that there's a finish line. And, you know, I think fans just need to be patient, especially fans on the internet, that these things just don't solve themselves. You know, there is a finish line, and I'm pretty sure the guys at the WWE, they know, I'm pretty sure that they understand that people are tired of Cena having the title. Trust me, they have received the message. But there is a finish line, and we're not there yet as far as this angle goes. And, you know, I'm pretty sure that fans are going to be pleased. But fans just have to be patient. And remember, guys, it's entertainment. It's all entertainment. I think people take things like this a little too seriously. Just calm down. If you don't like what's on the screen, then turn the screen. That's all they got to say. You know, things you can't control, don't worry about it. But I think it'll be the pay windows down there. Maybe SummerSlam, maybe something else. There's something brewing with Roman Reigns here. And I think they're building old Roman Reigns up for something. Maybe Royal Rumble time, I don't know. But they need to slow build that dude, like they did back in the old days. Because I'm an old school guy. But I definitely think, like I said, you know, John Cena, especially for what he does for them kids, and he's been a workhorse for the company for so long. I think, you know, like I said, it's going to be something good. And, anyways, I'm going to sign off for now, and this concludes the first, you know, part 2 of the first episode of Shooting from the Hip. Just me yakking a whole lot of probably stuff that you don't really care about, but hey, I mean, anybody else out there that finds some interest in it, wants to engage me in it, just feel free to go right ahead. It's great. I love wrestling. We're going to be moving into some other topics later on with some book reviews and things like that, but definitely professional wrestling is something I'm interested in. We'll have some movie reviews too, and so this is just not all about wrestling here. It's going to be a variety show. So, like I said, I hope y'all have a great week, and this is signing off for Shooting from the Hip. You keep on rocking out there.